What up, what up? It's the Athletic Hockey Show for Wednesday, July 8th. I am Sean Gentili. I'm here with Frankie Corrado and Sean McIndoe. Boys, this is the first time I think all three of us have been together on a Wednesday in a while. And it is the final time for this season because we're about to head into the pits of the offseason, baby. There's about to be nothing to talk about. But we're not quite there yet. We have a bunch of RFAs to talk about, offer sheet stuff. But first, here is a subject, Sean McIndoe, that is near and dear to your heart. Daniel Alfredsson, Ottawa Senators legend, joins the Toronto Maple Leafs coaching staff yesterday. He was, of course, an assistant for the Sens the last couple years. Another knife in the back for Senators fans. Possibly a strange situation brewing for Maple Leafs fans. Is that right? How do you feel about this, McIndoe? Tell me, please.
When I was young, there was a philosopher who was very influential to me, and he had a saying. He said, "Everybody's got a price for the $1 billion team." And Daniel Alfredsson had a price, and Matt Sundion stepped up and paid it. I kind of like this. I'm okay with it. I will tell you this on the whole Daniel Alfredsson as villain in Toronto. I'm on record as saying the stick throwing thing was dumb. I think Leaf fans went way overboard on the stick throwing thing. Now, a bunch of the other stuff, some of the comments, some of the guarantees, the hit from behind on Darcy Tucker, I get it. To me, Alfredsson is not like at the very tippy top of the villain list. So I don't mind the fact that he has now had to come crawling to the Maple Leafs organization and say, please get me out of Ottawa. I want to work for an organization that I can't even do the bit.
How's he going to finish that one?
You sound like the world's worst WWE heel right now.
Yeah,
that's what you sound like. But okay, think about setting the table for that. Alfie's a WWE superstar. He comes out there, he's wearing the Senators tracksuit or the Senators jersey, and he's talking about, I don't know, how much he loves Ottawa, and then all of a sudden it just flips. And it switches, and he takes off the tracksuit jacket, and what's under there? A big Maple Leaf logo. That's and right. This event is taking place at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. He just gives a big thumbs down to everyone.
This is Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach.
That's basically what it is.
On the 30-year anniversary, by the way.
That's right.
Of that
30-year anniversary. And when you said something about like a philosopher, I knew you were going somewhere with it, and I was like, where's he going to go? And I thought you were going to quote the song by Poison, "Every Rose Has Its Thorn," because Daniel Alfredsson has been this lovely rose for Ottawa and the Senators organization. He came back after an unceremonious exit all those years ago, and he was there to help restore stability to the franchise and help turn them around and give them a familiar, friendly face, and he's gone to the arch rival. He's gone to the Toronto Maple Leafs of all teams. He's getting a promotion. He's an associate head coach. That obviously qualifies him to make more money. And it's not like, this is the crazy thing, it's not like he was just saying, killing time, being a coach. Yeah, I made a lot of money. I'll be okay. I'm just going to go back to doing what I was doing. He's like asking for more. He's trying to do more. So he's obviously caught the coaching bug, and he wants to pursue this thing, and he's going to do it 4 hours down the road. And I think what Alfie needs to do now is the first practice where he's visible in a Maple Leafs tracksuit, he has to find a way to get a TPS Louisville response yellow stick like Matt Sundion had that he snapped back in the day, and that's his stick. That's the stick that he's using out there. If he doesn't do it, it's a missed opportunity.
I can't wait. And look, I mean, he's associate head coach. He's basically number 2 on the pecking order, maybe. And look, that gives him some time because I'll tell you, on behalf of Leaf fans, we're going to give Jim Hiller a solid 10 to 15 games before we completely turn on him. And then it might be Coach
Alfie.
Go out
Coach
there,
Alfie
hit a guy from behind, look all innocent, and have your hair like Krusty the Clown.
I gotta say, man, like one of the things that I realized as I've gotten further into this business and surrounded myself with more Toronto Maple Leafs fans or former players, I don't think I understood the depth of the Alfredsson thing. I did, a lot of this comes from McIndoe, I suppose, but like I don't think I realized how much Leafs fans dislike this guy. Like I've gradually realized that over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So I was as shocked as anybody when I saw that, and I was very, very excited to see how the larger, how the hashtag passion would respond to all this, because you guys don't like that guy, and you never have.
It's because he was the face of not just a rivalry, and not just a great rivalry, an intense rivalry, but and this is very rare in the Leafs history archives, a rivalry that the Leafs clearly won. So that means a rivalry that Leaf fans still like talking about to this day, right? Like you can come up and be like, "Hey, remember that thing you guys had with the Flyers in the early 2000s?" And it's like, we don't need to do that. We don't.
Let's not talk about that.
But this is one where, we'll happily talk about it. So I mean, I will just say for the record, I'm happy with the hire. I'm happy to welcome Daniel Alfredsson to Toronto. All I want is for him to just give a simple press conference where he renounces the Senators in its entirety, where he admits and acknowledges that they were dirty cheaters during the Battle of Ontario, and where he proclaims that the Leafs are the best, and that Matt Sundin quite literally now owns him, and probably always has. Once we do that, we're good. There's no problem.
Well, I'm happy you bring up Matt Sundin, because clearly there was a lot of skepticism when this front office was assembled. John Chaika, Matt Sundin. And it was like, okay, what's Matt Sundin bringing to the table other than being, face of the franchise, icon? Like, what is the grunt work? What is the daily, duties that Matt Sundin is going to have to do? There's no way this happens without Matt Sundin.
Yep.
Like, this is Matt Sundin kind of asserting himself, flexing his muscle, and being able to pull something off like this. And if it goes well, man, we're going to talk about how Daniel Alfredsson, who ran a really good power play, top 10 power play in the NHL for the Ottawa Senators, came to Toronto and did something to a similar effect here in Toronto. And Matt Sundin was the guy who facilitated the whole thing. So this is one move for Sundin where we start to see how he can kind of flex his muscle a little bit in the new role that he's in.
Two things real quick, and then we can move on. First of all, this now leaves the Senators with an opening on the bench. I'm wondering what Darcy Tucker is up to these days. Travis Green's old buddy. They could maybe put the whole line back together, and we could just do a total shipathesis osmosis thing where eventually we've completely switched. Here's my question: when the Leafs first play in Ottawa, does Daniel Alfredsson get another tribute video, or is there like a maximum one welcome back tribute video per career? Do they just replay the old one? Like what's the protocol here?
I saw a tribute video at a Pittsburgh Pirates Atlanta Braves game yesterday for Joey Bart that the Pirates played for Joey Bart. So I don't know if I'm the right guy to. I don't know if I'm calibrated right for this. I just googled Daniel Alfredsson, Sean McIndoe.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking at a series of posts that you have made over the years. Here's one. The top 10 dumbest moments in the Battle of Ontario. This is from the original blog. This is from the old blog spot. Now, it was one thing when Daniel Alfredsson guaranteed that the Sens would win a series after a Game 5 loss. After all, Alfredsson made guarantees that didn't come true all the time. And at least he was a player, meaning he could have some impact on the game's outcome. He didn't, of course, because it was a Game 7 and he's a Senator, but he theoretically could have. Okay, that's a good one. What else we
Yeah,
got here?
that was like I said, I was positive about the guy.
You are positive. You
I had
said
his
If you ask a Senators fan to create a Mount Rushmore of comic genius, it will include George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Lenny Bruce, and Daniel Alfredsson pretending to throw his broken stick. I don't think you meant that as a compliment.
I
that
don't
didn't
think
sound
so.
sincere to me.
I got one. December 3rd, 2014. Sean McIndoe determined Alfredsson to be Hall of Fame worthy last month, but not without plenty of consternation.
I like that one.
So you gave him a little bit, but you kind of reeled it back a little bit as well.
I guess there's a whole Grantland post, the Hall of Fame candidacy of Daniel Alfredsson. Let's see. 4, his numbers are good. His numbers are good. They're not great. You're fairly. I think this one's fine.
See, I was you can tell when I crossed the Rubicon from Blogspot to actual grown up getting paid to do this, where I like try to take the Homer glasses off.
I guess you're really struggling on whether this seems like you're forcing yourself to come to the logical conclusion, which is that he should be in the Hall of Fame.
I heard a good Alfredsson story. I know we got to pivot to RFAs just quickly on the way out, though. I heard a good Alfredsson story from an old strength coach that was with us in Toronto, and he was in Detroit when Alfie was there. And he said that they were on the road one time, and everyone had showered, and like sandals were kind of laying around, some towels were kicking around behind. And those guys, like the strength coaches, the athletic therapists, they all stick around, right? Like they don't really go back to the hotel on game day. They just kind of stay there. Some will, some won't. And he walks in to like kind of clean things up, and there's Alfie. Like think about how old Alfie was at that point in his career, how prominent, established, all that stuff. And Alfie is like organizing the sandals for the trainers and like putting towels away after a morning skate. Like that, I thought that always stuck with me. I think that's the kind of leadership that Alfie has. And I mean, he obviously is going to instill and has instilled a lot of that on the guys that he's coached already.
Well, it's going to be fascinating when the Senators come to Toronto and play, where Alfredsson gets to face his former team in front of a building full of Leaf fans. And then when they go back to Ottawa and he faces his former team in front of a building full of Leaf fans again, in a different city. That'll be
okay. Fun. We got to move on.
Time for a break. We're gonna come back and talk about RFAs and offer sheets. All right, we're back, fellas. While we were away, because it was 10 days or 14 days or so, a good bit has happened. We're not going to relitigate all of it, but the relevant bit is the RFA situation, because the bill is coming due on these guys, on the 2 who have signed. We got Barret Hayton, who signed a deal with the Devils that the Utah Mammoth has until today to match. And, of course, the Leo Carlsson deal with Philly that Anaheim has until Friday to match. Let's maybe circle back, because Frankie, I'm interested in hearing from you about this. Just generally, big picture, where are you on the RFA mechanism, just in general? Like how, like were you surprised to see this? That's probably a more direct way to get at it. When this is a few days ago, like how shocked were you that we saw any of these, let alone 2 fairly high profile ones?
I was surprised, but you know why I was surprised? Because outside of the Holloway and Broberg ones, it's just not something that is commonplace, and it hasn't been for a long time. And when we were living in this, flat cap world, and even prior to that, when the cap just wasn't as high as it was, teams really put a squeeze on RFAs, especially if you had no arbitration rights. An offer sheet wasn't coming, so they owned your rights, and they were going to try and squeeze you as much as they possibly could. And I can't tell you how many times, like either I heard it or heard it through other players, that teams say you're an RFA. You do not get the same money as a UFA. And now with the money rising the way that it is, the class of players that are getting to UFA status, not necessarily being game changers, this is something that, I think GMs are looking at and saying, I'm under the gun. I need to improve my team. And so I'm going to take some big swings here, throw out some offer sheets. And yeah, I'm going to, I'm going to rearrange a lot of the way the market was set up, but too bad, man. I got my own agenda that I need to work on. And as far as the players are concerned, I love it. I love it for the players because far too long, RFAs were just getting squeezed out of money and being told, eat your QO and that's it. And you'll come to camp and you'll play well and you'll get a contract next year. And that's not the case right now. So GMs have another little thing to kind of grapple with. And those are some, the Carlsson one is obviously, crazy. Like it's earth shattering. The Hayton one is interesting, the way that they built it. But as a former player, I'm all for it. It's about time the players had a little bit of power back in this situation because they had literally zero power before.
And they had zero power as, a guy like Leo Carlsson, he's going into his prime, right? And it used to be that you kind of were owned by the team until you turned 26, 27 to hit UFA age. If you had not already signed away a bunch of your UFA years, which so many players seem eager to do, which I never understood and now really don't understand. But hey, it's in a way better that you're paying top dollar for prime years versus decline years. Let me ask you this though, Frankie. We don't know yet if either of these offer sheets is being matched. The consensus seems to be that probably both will. There's an argument on both sides in both cases, but chances are they get matched. Assuming that happens, if you're a player in that room and Barret Hayton or Leo Carlsson walk in and they signed a contract with another team, okay? Are you just happy for them? Is it like, hey man, business is business, get the bag, do whatever you need to do, good for you, happy to have you back? Or is there any part of you that's going, how committed are you to this when you put pen to paper on a contract that had another team's logo on it?
Buddy, it's a great question. It's the former. Because as a player, if you were presented with an offer sheet, you would do the exact same thing. Like it's the business part of it. The only thing now that's different is there's another team's logo attached to the paper that you signed. But realistically, if you were going back and forth with your team and you're kind of, presenting each other offers and you're trying to get as much as you possibly can, this is really no different. There's just someone stepped in and did that work for you. And there would not be, if there was a guy in any of those situations, like on those teams that had an issue with these guys signing offer sheets, I don't know, man. Maybe they're probably not the most popular guys, put it that way. Like this is just business. That's all it is. And everyone has to take care of their own business. All the players recognize that. And there's a little bit of a duty for guys. I get that you don't want to take too much percentage of the cap, but you still got to keep this thing moving. Like you still got to try and recoup as much as you can from these GMs.
You think Pavel Mintyukov is going to be mad at Leo Carlsson over that? Like that dude just signed for 7.25, almost in direct response to the Carlsson offer sheet. Because you don't think that some part of Berube isn't just like, oh, whoa, okay, I need to let's try to avoid this happening again. And the end result is Mintyukov he's a nice player, don't get me wrong, but he gets a deal that certainly I would bet my life that when Pat Verbeek and Pavel Mintyukov's agent were talking 3 weeks ago, or if they would have talked a week from now in a world where Leo Carlsson doesn't do that, you think that's the tenor that those negotiations talk, where they're like, yeah, 7.25 for this quasi unproven, young defenseman? Like, no way. It's already starting to pay off, and that to me is where. We hear a lot about offer sheets. We do every summer to some extent. I feel like we're always, or especially, over the last few years, maybe 5 years ago, we're underwhelmed by the amount of people that actually sign them. You hear every year, like, all right, watch out, there's going to be a few. This year we've heard it more. Obviously, we see 2 high profile ones. I don't mean to discount the importance of those, but it's still just 2 guys. So my thought coming into this, or whatever, maybe yesterday, was, hearing a lot about RFAs, but, only 2 offer sheets actually came through. Be that as it may, I think the important part and the relevant part is what it does for guys like Mintyukov and what it does for other players who maybe don't switch teams, but that seed's been planted, whether it's with Pat Verbeek or whether it's with general managers who aren't quite as intimately involved with this, that like, okay, the possibility is there. Clearly there's like an added degree of willingness on the players' part overall to do this. Like, we need to make sure we get our own guys locked up, and we're not going to play hardball as aggressively as maybe we would have otherwise.
And that's been a fascinating subplot of this, right? Is that you talk about playing hardball, and nobody had a reputation for playing more hardball than Pat Verbeek, right? We saw that in our agent poll a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the I can't remember if we said who's the worst GM to deal with or who's the toughest, and that is a different question, but it was Pat Verbeek in a landslide. This guy squeezes for everything. And yeah, I mean, we heard that apparently on the day of the offer sheet that there was a meeting and Pat Verbeek said, here's the number we'll go to. And Leo Carlsson said, here's the number I want. And there was a big gap. And there was talk of, well, we might get an offer sheet. And Pat Verbeek, it sounds like, basically said, well, good luck with that. You go ahead and see what you can get. And it came back. And you know what's funny? Sean, you talk about this is going to benefit other players because now it's not like a fake threat anymore. Mm-mm. It's now something GMs really have to weigh, and you can't screw around. You got to get your guys signed, and maybe it's going to be at a bigger number than you want, and maybe you got to take away somewhere else, but you're going to do it. And you look at Anaheim and you go, okay, who's the next guy up for a contract? Who's going to benefit from this? Who's the guy who's going to get more money because of what the Philadelphia Flyers did? That's Cutter Gauthier. It might be the guy who benefits from this the most. And that the irony there is a lot of fun. But in the meantime, I mean, if you're Kyle Davidson, are you just sitting outside Connor Bedard's house cutting the phone lines just to make sure that nothing gets through, or what's the plan there?
Well, listen, they sit here today. Chicago sits here with like $29 million in cap space. And a lot of that has to do with just, we're ready to go. We're ready to go on anything that happens with Bedard, probably the same way Anaheim thought they were ready to go if anything were to happen with Leo Carlsson. Like, they left themselves a lot of space. If you look at like what Leo Carlsson's, projected salary would be, like a lot of these companies, AFP, Scotiastat, like they all have projections, right? The AFP one on a long-term deal is 8 years, $11.4 million. On a short-term deal, it's 3 years at $8.2 million. So there's a chance that Pat Verbeek was sitting there saying, we're offering this guy $12.5 million, and he wants 15. Okay, let's see if 15 is out there for him. And if push comes to shove, we'll have to match, and we will. And so they probably felt fairly comfortable. I don't think in their wildest dreams, they thought 18 million was coming their way. And that changes things. That changes things immensely. And initially, I thought this. Initially, I thought Anaheim, it's a pretty simple decision. They're either going to keep their star player, or they're going to lose him, and they're going to go back to being a bad team, and they're going to have to, kind of rejig this thing for about 4 or 5 years. So it's a no-brainer. It's a lot of money. You got to find a way to figure it out. And I still think that. But at the same time, I think Anaheim gets screwed both ways. If they match or if they don't match, even if they're keeping their star player. Because now their cap situation is going to be awful. They barely have a back end at this point. Like, they're going to bank on Tristan Luneau, who's played, 14 games? Has he played 20 games? Like, they're going to bank on him being a top pair guy with Jackson Lacombe. They're not going to have money to go around. They're going to be really top heavy. So match it or don't match it, Anaheim's in one big time. And I just see Danny Briere laughing in an office because, and maybe this goes back to the Cutter Gauthier stuff. Maybe there's a little bit of resentment there, but whoever orchestrated this in Philly, mastermind stuff. Complete mastermind stuff on an organization that you clearly have a little bit of sour grapes and some history with.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do, right? I mean, it has to be an offer sheet that puts the receiving team in a no-win situation, and B, that means it's got to be a number so high that maybe other people don't believe it at first. I didn't. When I first saw the number 90 million. I saw 90 million. I saw 18 million as the number, and I know that if you sign a guy to an offer sheet that's even longer than that, that's even longer than 5 years, it just gets divided by 5. So when I saw 18 million, I thought, okay, it must be like a 6 or a 7 year offer sheet. And then this is the inflated number that comes out of it. No, this was the actual number, laden with bonuses all over the place. A moving salary, which is something the Ducks do not do for some weird reason. If you look at their contracts, they're all flat year to year. So this obviously breaks something that Pat Verbeek likes to do. Hey, I remember a few years ago,
or ownership likes to do,
or ownership, although they didn't do it before Pat Verbeek. So I mean, who knows? It might be. It's tough to say. I just think back. Remember a few years ago when Montreal signed Sebastian Aho to the offer sheet, and we all just looked at it and went, "Well, Carolina's going to match that,
right?
What are you doing? You just signed their player for them. That had no chance of getting off the ground, and we all kind of made fun of them, probably rightly so. This is the flip side of that, man. I still, having had 5 days to think it over, I don't know what I would do if I was Pat Verbeek, and that's the sign of a good offer sheet. Because if it's an easy match, then you've wasted your time, and if it's an easy we're not going to match, then you've clearly blown the number so far out of field that you've made a mistake. This is how you know they found the sweet spot. I don't know what I would do.
The other thing to consider too is that it's a perfect offer sheet for the Philadelphia Flyers, right? Like, it's in that sweet spot to maybe stop the Anaheim Ducks from matching it, but there's not a team in the league that is better situated or more sensible to go out and do this because of their salary structure, because of the pieces that they have elsewhere, starting with Porter Martone, of course, but also just generally. That's a really deep team that has a bunch of interesting young players that also has no quality depth at center, or certainly no top of the roster quality in that center group. So if you're Philly, you're saying, all right, we've done a pretty good job on this rebuild. Here's where we have this blaring, big red mark at the top of the lineup. You say, fine, like, we'll go out and we have no other way to get that guy. So we'll go out and pay $18 million for him because we're well situated everywhere else to absorb that kind of contract. And you say, absolutely, like we will take that. There are teams out there that could have signed Leo Carlsson to an identical offer sheet where we would be saying, like, ooh, is this smart? Is this smart for Team X to, potentially dedicate 18 mil and all these upfront payments and blah, blah, blah? Like, is this going to be worth it? For Philadelphia, it's absolutely worth it. Like, there's no question.
That's exactly it, right? Like, if it's so bad for Anaheim, why is it so good for Philadelphia? It's the same contract, it's the same money, it's the same upfront money, but you're right. Like, you outlined it in detail there, why it works for the Philadelphia Flyers. In a perfect world, you think Philly wants to pay him $18 million? Probably not, but that's the cost of doing business. Like, they had to come in with an offer that Anaheim really had to think about with matching, and maybe led them down a path where they don't match. I mentioned it briefly on the Barrett Hayton one. So that's an interesting one because Utah's got about $4.5 million in cap space, and that deal is 4.775. But you can be 10% over the cap in the summer, and it's also structured with some bonuses in there. Like, it's going to be 3.9 bonus, and then the rest is going to be $850, which is your salary. Which, okay, that shouldn't be a problem. But for Leo Carlsson, the signing bonus in year 1 is $19.9 million. In year 2, it's $18.1. In year 3, it's $17. Like, this is not the Rangers. This is not the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is the Anaheim Ducks. This is a team where, for a long time, that building, it's a great fan base. I always really loved playing in Anaheim. I thought they were raucous. They were rowdy. It hasn't exactly been packed to the brims outside of this year. So they were all like, that's already an interesting kind of component of this. And then I think if you dig a little deeper, okay, you kind of see what's going on in Anaheim. There's a huge, like, $10 billion private capital building boom right now near that arena.
Next door to it?
Yeah, where Honda Center and the baseball diamond is.
It made my life very complicated when I was
right.
trying to... When I was
and you're like, so, okay, so you were there. So you were there, so you saw it, and then when you see this happen, you're like, wait a second, who would, like, I don't know for sure, but I'm like, who would be funding that on the grounds of the arena? You're like, oh, there's some cash going out. Maybe it makes it more difficult.
That's why I brought up Ducks ownership when you were like, Pat Verbeek doesn't structure things this way. Like, oh, it might be an ownership thing too, because the Samueli family, they're involved with that pretty significantly, and that development is expensive, and it looks like it, right? So if you're the Ducks ownership group, the Ducks owners, which is, it's a guy, I don't know if you necessarily want to pay $19 million up front to Leo Carlsson for the next however, like in lump sum, one-time payments. I don't think that's ideal, because you can look out the office or walk out the front door of the Honda Center and see a very expensive, very involved development that's going up really, really quickly. Like, that place was a disaster zone during the playoffs, and it's because they're building this incredible multi-use, it's called OC Live, this ridiculous complex directly outside the arena. And that's Ducks ownership. And that's, if I had to guess, I would say that's probably why they're not super psyched to have to cut an $18 or $19 million check to one dude at some point over the next couple months. So,
flip side of that is, if you're Pat Verbeek and you're getting pushback from ownership, you go up to him and you say, "Look, boss, word on the street is people are saying that the Flyers are pushing you around. The Flyers have got more money than you. The Flyers are muscling you with their tell a billionaire that, that, because that's basically what Montreal did with Tom Dundon when they were trying to get Sebastian Aho, right? Was there was rumors that the Carolina, they wouldn't be able to find the money. Go up to a billionaire and say, somebody doesn't think you have money, and watch how they snap their fingers and
make it appear
dollar bills just fall out of the sky onto them.
It's like Izzy Mandelbaum. You think you're better than me?
Yep. So do we have a prediction? Like, should we go on record? What do we think Anaheim is going to do here?
I think Anaheim matches it. I think they have to, because otherwise, like, what was this for? He's your best player. He's going to be one of the, I don't know, 6 1Cs in the league by the time he'll show up on MVP ballots by the time this is all. By the time
he better
all said and done.
Yeah,
he better. He hasn't yet.
For sure.
He better show up on ballots starting next year at this rate.
I think it's based on the way he played until he had that thigh injury. I think that's absolutely possible, right? So, if you let him walk, the piece that makes the piece that holds the room together, not to quote Big Lebowski, but that's what Carlsson is. Like, everything makes sense because of him. Like, it's great to have Cutter Gauthier and Seneca and these guys, and they're great players. But if they would be in a situation extremely similar to that of the Philadelphia Flyers if they let him walk, where you're like, oh, we got some nice pieces, up and down the lineup, but we're missing that guy at the top. So once you have him in the frame, man, you can't let him walk, because then that just guarantees that Honda Live or OC Live or whatever it's called, whenever it opens, is going to have a pretty mediocre team that's playing next door. And I think you got to guard against that too.
I agree. I think they match it reluctantly, of course. And there's a couple things. If you look at the way that center ice position is structured right now, Carlsson, Granlund, Paling, Tim Washy. Now take Leo Carlsson away from that. And you're
exactly.
Like, it's not good. Even though you have the shiny toys on the wings, it's still not good. I think the other thing with these 4 first-round picks, we just hear the term first-round pick and we think it's got a lot of value, which is true to a certain degree, especially if it's a high first-round pick. But you're going to get Philly's first-round picks. Philly's going to be adding Leo Carlsson.
It's going to be adding Leo Carlsson.
Philly's going to be a bet, like they were a playoff team last year. Or do we all of a sudden expect Philly to turn into like a bottom feeder that's going to hand you over, top 10 picks? These are going to be 22, 23, 25. So what are you going to do with those? You're going to turn around and you're going to call Steve Yzerman and say, I got a deal. You won't believe it. I got 4 first-round picks that are going to be in the high 20s or mid-20s for you. What do you think for Dylan Larkin? He's going to hang up the phone. So as much as you can, come up with a theory that, they can turn those picks and parlay them into something, I don't think that's that easy. So I think they have to match it, even though it's a lot of money and their cap structure is going to be busted for a long time.
I agree, except I'm not as convinced that these Flyers firsts are guaranteed to be in the 20s. They made the playoffs last year, yes, without Leo Carlsson. But nobody thought they were making the playoffs. Everybody was shocked that they made the playoffs. And the one nice thing to keep in mind, if you're Anaheim, these picks would be unprotected, which is gold in the NHL these days. You can't get you call up we saw it at this deadline. The Colorado Avalanche are sitting there with 120 points, and they're top 10 protecting draft picks they're trading away. So I do think there is some decent value there. I still think they match. Producer Jeff says he thinks the Ducks let them walk, so it's not completely unanimous. He thinks they take the picks, but I think they match, and I think they match. The tiebreaker for me is just, at the end of the day, NHL front office types are very alpha male. You will not walk in here and take my blah, blah, blah. And Pat Verbeek especially. Pat Verbeek was the original little ball of hate, and he earned that when he was a player. And I don't think he's mellowed as a GM. So I think push comes to shove, I think they take it and then they figure it out. But it's tough.
Frank, your summer vacation is about to start, my man. You got a round to get to in a couple minutes here.
As we sit here and talk right now, it is approaching 10 a.m. I will have my peg in the ground in 40 minutes, gentlemen.
Ding!
I wish the three of you, both Sean's and Jeff, an amazing summer. All the people that listen to us with our nonsense all year long, thank you so much for listening. I can't tell you how many times I see people and they're like, hey, we listen to the Athletic Hockey Show. We love it. So thank you to everyone for listening, and looking forward to starting back up in the fall with you guys.
Yeah, don't sign any offer sheets, Frankie. Okay, I don't spitting chiclets or Steve Dangle comes calling. You don't answer. Okay,
it's up to producer Jeff if he's going to match it.
All right, fair enough.
Steve, the little ball of hate Dangle. That's what we've always called him. Enjoy the golf, brother. We'll talk to you real soon. Frankie's walking up to the tee box already, I think. We're back. Sean McIndoe, I would like to tell you something that I learned.
What have we learned, Sean?
Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Zach Wheeler on Tuesday night struck out 14 guys. And he said afterward, this is Wheeler, he's 9-1. He's, a Cy Young candidate for the Phils. He is not on the National League roster for the All-Star game, which coincidentally is in Philadelphia. And he's mad about it. Wheeler said it pisses me off, and it's kind of BS that he wasn't on the roster. I think the thought is that the reason he wasn't on the roster is because he's pitching, immediately before the All-Star break begins. That typically is just a ticket to guarantee that an MLB starting pitcher doesn't actually wind up on there. We've seen it with Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh and Mizorowski in Milwaukee. We've seen it in a couple different spots, but those guys were named to the roster and then replaced. Wheeler bypassed that. It seems like he just didn't make it straight away because of the rest thing, and he's mad about it. So I learned in the last 5 days that that in other sports, players actually want to compete in the All-Star game. It might just be baseball at this point, but it's possible to be mad over not making a team. That is not any kind of sentiment that we've ever heard from an NHL player since, I don't know, do you remember when All-Star games were relevant? Because I don't. Was it the 80s?
Not honestly.
Was it ever?
Even in the 80s, they were a little. I don't think they were relevant since it used to be the Cup champion playing the All-Stars. Back then, it probably mattered to at least one team. But so are we saying then that other athletes in other sports like being famous star athletes? Like that's something to aspire to and not something to run terrified from? Interesting.
It appears to be much more widely embraced in other sports. Yes, I think it's possible, honestly, that you see like Paul Skeens just go and hang out in Philly on All-Star Weekend and be in the dugout and do that kind of like. The odds of that ever happening for an NHL player are functionally zero. It would never.
As opposed to like the NHL, where there has to be like a dedicated employee whose job is to just like black bag Alex Ovechkin 2 days before All-Star Weekend and make sure they get him there to at least wave at the crowd.
What are we going to have to do? How are we going to have to bribe you to get you to involve yourself in the All-Star festivities? Like cars? You guys want a Honda Pilot? You want a Honda Pilot? We'll get you a Honda Pilot. Fine.
You guys are probably dying for a Honda Pilot, right? That's yes.
And look, I like the MLB All-Star Game. Like the stakes are low. Like I don't want to gas up how much players on their sports care about All-Star festivities. Like the Pro Bowl basically doesn't exist anymore. The NBA might be in worse than the NHL when it comes to just trying to find something that the athletes care about and will at least pretend to compete in. So like it isn't, I don't want to make it a total, like act like this is 3 leagues versus 1 when it comes to this, but the fact that Wheeler was actively pissed about it and said so, that is a sentiment that you will never see from an NHL player. So it was kind of wild to read that yesterday.
I do like that. I'll tell you what I learned. I learned via a Craig Berube interview that, according to him, Mitch Marner was the emotional core of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The core.
He was the energy. He was basically the guy in that room. Sean, I think I might be starting to crack the code on what may have been wrong with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And what's that?
I think I'm starting to piece together where maybe some of this, if the beating emotional heart was our pal, Mitch Marner.
Dry hair Mitch.
Dry hair, choking back tears in the penalty box. If that was the guy that everyone was looking to, if that entire team was going into a Game 7 looking down at their "What Would Mitch Do" bracelets, I'm starting to feel like maybe I might know where some of the issue was with this team.
You would think Craig Berube would try to be the emotional core of the Toronto Maple Leafs if all else fails. Where is he on that?
Yeah, you would have thought, but well.
Who do you think their emotional core is going to be this season?
You know what? That's a great question.
Colton Sissons?
It might be. Just bring them right on. Or, maybe it'll be, I think it's going to be Matthew Nyes. I think after 6 straight months of hearing a new trade rumor every single day, he's going to be in a great frame of mind in October when it's time to go out and play for real. He's going to feel a real dedication and loyalty as he, after every shift, looks up and see if John Chaika's on the phone in the front office box, just waiting for that tap on the shoulder. Hey, go take the sweater off, man. You're on your way to wherever it is.
That seems like it's the right way to leave this season for us on a doom-saying kind of niche note about the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Alfie will fix it. It's going to be fine.
In Alfie we trust.
Yeah, you said it.
Are you gonna just wait until the start of the season or wait until training camp to see the kind of like quarter zip or like jacket that he wears when he's on the ice and then get one to match? Is that what you're gonna do instead of buying a jersey?
I might do that. I'm gonna start growing the hair out. I did get the haircut right before the news dropped. So, but now I'm gonna grow it out just on the sides. I'm gonna keep it short everywhere else, and it'll be good. And I guarantee that the next time you see me, I'll have the Daniel Alfredsson hair.
Yeah, and of course, the next time I see you will be in October sometime because we're just not going to speak until then.
That's correct.
Just kidding. We got shows coming up this summer. A bunch of our beat writers. We did it last year. It's the How to Fix series. We're going to try to figure out, yes, the Maple Leafs, yes, the Senators, but also the Canucks and the Red Wings and the Devils. Teams like that have missed out on the playoffs. And we're going to talk to the beats, figure out what the road back to postseason relevance for those teams are. Check it out. That starts up soon. Until then, though, thank you, Sean McIndoe. Thank you, producer Jeff. Thank you, Frankie Corrado, wherever you may be, on the first tee somewhere. For another great season, man. I love you guys. I love doing this. McIndoe. What do you say? We do this again?
We'll see. I don't know.
We'll see. Okay.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Bye-bye. We'll see.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.